Today we're discussing the future of Carey Price. Will he ever make a return to the Montreal Canadiens, or is his career over? A recent interview he conducted for The Athletic certainly seems like hockey is very much likely not in his future. We'll discuss the interview and what it means coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're looking at the future of Carey Price and discussing whether or not his career has actually already come to an end. Of course, we've seen last year where he was going through a lot of rehab and really did a lot just to play a very few select games, still encountered a lot of issues, and now this year we know he's not going to be playing and is going to be on long-term injury reserve. But is there any real clarity on his future? Will he retire? Will he write out the rest of his contract on LTIR? We now know a little bit more about the exact issues with the knee and stuff that he's been going through due to a recent interview he conducted with The Athletic and writer Arpon Basu, and it kind of sheds a little bit of light on what he's dealing with on a more of a day-to-day basis. Plus, of course, if you didn't watch it last night, the home opener of the Montreal Canadiens, the season opener for the Habs and the Leafs, doing battle in Montreal, where they went through all the player introductions, and Carey Price did end up coming out when they were announcing all of the players not dressing for that game. I think it was a little bit of a surprise because he was at the end, and it kind of felt like a farewell. You could tell it was an emotional moment for Carey Price. It was an emotional moment for the diehard Habs fans in the building, probably those watching on TV as well, and it just kind of felt like it was like a send-off. Now, will this be the last time we see Carey Price? Probably not. And if I do believe he's scheduled to meet the media sometime next week, and he'll probably discuss some of the things that we're talking about here today that he's already conducted an interview for. So, essentially, he told Arpon Basu of The Athletic that his knee is not doing so great. He can't even walk up a set of stairs completely pain-free. He doesn't feel like his knee is in a place where he can play hockey right now. And he was even getting swelling in the knee just from day-to-day activities. So he's trying to stay positive. He's trying to get his body to a point where he feels healthy and healthy enough to be hopefully able to live a pain-free life. Now, of course, we know hockey players are players, but there's more to life than just hockey. We know Carey Price is a husband, he's a father, he's got some young children that I'm sure he'd like to do lots of different things with activity-wise, maybe even help them get into hockey at some point, be on the ice with them as well. And, it's something that you got to look at, right? It's not just about your athletic life, it's about your quality of overall life and what you can also do as a husband and as a parent. And that's very much important. Like, he doesn't want to be, in a situation where he can't do things with his children. And that's completely understandable. But he certainly, wants to get himself to a point where he can at least do that stuff. Like, be more of an active father involved with activities. He mentioned about getting on the ice, with his children and things like that. Like, if he can't even do those things right now comfortably and pain-free, you can't even imagine trying to be a professional athlete, let alone a high-pressure goaltender for the Montreal Canadiens. Like, it's an absolutely unfortunate situation, but after a long career, 712 games played, 92 playoff games, I'm sure that the wear and tear, it's taken its toll on his body. Now, what he does have on the table is a unique surgery. It's called, the acronym stands for, it's called OAT surgery. OAT stands for osteochondral autograft transfer. Now, I'll explain what that is and why that could be a possibility for him, but I'll also explain why he's leaning towards not doing it and how much risk is involved. So essentially, what Carey Price has going on with the knee is he has a large hole in the cartilage of his knee, and it's kind of like right where the knee bends. So it's a really, delicate area. So they basically need to create like a plug to plug that hole. But what they do is they remove bone and cartilage out of another area of the knee that's a little bit lower, a lower wear area. And they create this plug and they move it to that hole. So essentially, you're going to a part of the knee and you're taking away bone and cartilage in an area that's already healthy and like a lower wear and tear area, and you're creating like a plug. It's kind of unique, and it also sounds like it certainly comes with its fair share of risk. Now, according to the article and what Price told Arpon Basu in the interview here is that the success rate is not overly high. It sounds like it's about a max of about a 72% success rate. However, and 72% might sound like the odds are in your favor, but the big but here is that the odds go down, and they go down a fair bit based on what was explained here if you've had other knee issues or previous knee surgery in the past, which he has. So, you can't be removing bone and cartilage from another part of the knee if the other part of the knee maybe isn't really healthy enough to withstand that, for example. I'm not saying that his knee is or isn't. I don't know that. But still, if you think about it, right, if your knee's not in great shape and you're thinking about you're kind of hurting one area to make another area stronger. Now, the area that he needs to make stronger is an extremely pivotal part to be able to do a lot of activities and not have that pain, right? So basically, if you're familiar with baseball, if you follow baseball at all, it's comparable, not exact, but it's comparable to what a pitcher in baseball would go through for Tommy John surgery. So we know Tommy John surgery in baseball, when they happen, they're usually out for an entire season, and it's not even an absolute guarantee that they make it back. And if they do make it back, it generally does shorten their careers because it's such a risky surgery, and it's something that has a major toll on the body. Now, of course, the difference here as well is that because it's a leg and not an arm, even getting around like the day-to-day stuff is a lot more challenging, right? If you have a problem with your elbow or your wrist, like, not to say that you won't encounter challenges in life, but something as simple as walking around, going up the stairs, running and playing with your kids a little bit certainly would seem a lot more likely that you could handle if it's a different part of your body that's ailing you, right? So it's really, really unfortunate. So the surgery certainly comes from a fair share of risk. Of course, the surgery has been done apparently on hockey players, but it hasn't been done on a goaltender. And of course, the goaltending position is unique in how you bend and position and all that. It's probably fair to say that the knees and the lower part of your body takes much more of a toll and a overall beating, if you will, than an average defenseman or forward. At least you would think, just based on how they play and what's all involved in playing the goaltending role. Now, he also says with a fair bit of risk associated with this surgery that he doesn't really describe himself as much of a gambling man. That's not something he's really into. And at the same time, it also goes on to say that surgery might not even be recommended unless he really wants to push himself to try to return to being a professional hockey player. So if he tells the surgeons, I just want day-to-day pain-free life, I'm not interested in pushing myself to go back, I don't think I can handle that, they might not even recommend it because of the risk that comes with it. So essentially, his big concern here is, what if he has the surgery, attempts to come back, and it doesn't work because of the risk, because of the odds not being close to 100%? Could it make his knee even worse? And could it make his day-to-day life worse, his quality of life worse? Eliminate things that he can't do with his kids and all those things that you want to be able to do in life as a husband and a father, not just a hockey player. So essentially here, it doesn't sound like he has any interest in doing this surgery. He basically said that the current solutions that are available to him are just not acceptable. So I know at one point there was talk before the season started, or before training camp started, that there was another possibility of a big surgery he could have. He probably would be out all season. This is what we were talking about. But for next year, at this point, it's not even an option because he's not likely going to have this. Now, essentially, he was doing some treatments in Brossard, where the Canadiens trained, seeing their staff to get treatments and all that. He said he kind of put a stop to it for a while once training camp got underway because he didn't want to tie up resources that the other players might need to get ready for the season. He's been trying to do things that he kind of considers like his happy place, so to speak, to keep his mind off of things and to try to stay positive and trying his best to enjoy life, what he can do. But essentially, it sounds like he's still kind of searching and hoping basically for some sort of another solution that might come up over time. Maybe he'll seek other options if there are any out there. I'm sure he's got a medical team of his own, plus what the Habs provide, that at some point maybe they'll figure something else out. But at the same time, the longer you're away from the game, the less likely you're going to come back. He's already, into his mid-30s. His body's been through a lot. Basically, last year was a write-off for him. He doesn't play this year. Some of these surgeries, you're looking at a potential 6 to 12 month recovery. Then now you're looking at 3 years removed from being an active everyday player. Just add it all up here, and it's basically looking like it's just not going to happen. I mean, Carey Price has not come out and said those words, but I do believe where they've said that he will meet with the media soon, that I would suspect that there's a good chance they're going to say that Carey Price is not going to be able to make a return to hockey, and that he's going to be spending the remainder of his contract on long-term injury reserve. Now, I would hope for the Canadiens' sake that he continues to be around the team. I think it's good for the players. He's a good guy to have around, good inspiration for a lot of the young kids. Probably good for his own well-being and mental health as well, to kind of still be around it at the same time. But at the same time, he also might find it hard as well being there but not being on the ice. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it just seems like it's the writing's on the wall here, and that we've probably seen the last of Carey Price in uniform. Just seeing how emotional things were last night, it just made me think of a bit of a farewell, so to speak. And I knew that obviously this article was already out, but I hadn't had a chance to read it yet. It's been out for a few days, and I was planning on waiting to have some time to kind of go through that and do a video talking about his future. And here we are. Now, is Carey Price a Hall of Famer? I think he absolutely is. He's had a terrific career. He's been a dominant goalie, dominant in his position for an extended time. He's got lots of personal hardware. He might be missing a Stanley Cup, but it's not the NHL Hall of Fame too. It's the Hockey Hall of Fame. He's got quite an international resume between World Juniors, Olympics, and all that. He's got a lot of gold medals on his resume, along with a lot of NHL success, being a dominant goalie in his era and winning a bunch of personal hardware. So for me, Carey Price is 100% a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's my take. I'd love to know what you think as well. Is Carey Price likely done? Is he likely into the Hall of Fame? And if he does go to the Hall of Fame, do you think it's a first ballot situation, or do you think he'd have to wait a bit? I'd love to know what your thoughts are, of course, on all of that down below in the comment section. But also a teammate of his, Paul Byron, it's not sounding good for Byron either. He's obviously had a big hip surgery in the offseason, still having a lot of issues. And I've seen some reports saying that he could be out for some time. There's no real clear timetable on when he's going to be able to play. And when you start to be off for that long and have these kind of surgeries like Price has, you start to have questions popping up about could his career be over too? It's a little early to say that. I don't have more information on Byron like we do Price based on this interview in The Athletic, but it's certainly not sounding promising in that respect either. So let me know your thoughts on Carey Price, the unfortunate situation he's dealing with his knee. You have to think at this point, we probably, as fans, would like just to make sure that we wish him the best and getting back to pain-free, healthy life with his wife and kids. That is way more important than trying to resurrect a career that he's accomplished a ton at already. And I said he's been away a long time, so it doesn't sound like a return to the ice is ever going to happen. But let me know what you think in the comments. We'll discuss further. And of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.